It wouldn't be the Wrestling Old Heads portal of pro wrestling if I didn't wildly speculate about a potential match that could be at one of the two nights of WrestleMania. What's up, you guys? It's the Wrestling Old Head here, and I'm about to break down this theory like a shotgun, so let's talk about it. Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu is starting to come into his own. He is no longer prancing, or well, not prancing around. He's no longer walking around with his hands in the prayer pose, just waiting for Solo's word to go on the attack or the hunt. The wild Samoan werewolf is now unleashed. He and Tama Tonga have been on a tear lately in the WWE. The one thing that has been missing is Solo Sikoa, and this past Friday on WWE SmackDown, we noticed Solo Sikoa did not have a whole lot to say in regards to where he's been, his absence, and his thoughts on his loss to Roman Reigns. Something that I was thinking, fantasy cooking here for a second, so let me whip it up. This is in no way guaranteed to happen, but I'm starting to try to pick apart some of these little Easter eggs and pieces and put them together and formulate some sort of an idea. Going back to when Solo Sikoa first started his Rogue Bloodline, he saw the throne. It was wide open. Roman Reigns no longer the tribal chief. He felt the need to usurp the power of the head of the table before he was given the opportunity to do so. He saw that Roman Reigns was left on the ground without his crown, without his throne, having been defeated, and Solo, even prematurely, felt because Roman said he was next in line that he should take the throne by force. And that's exactly what he did. He went on a tear. He took the Ulafala. He got rid of the wise man. He got rid of the Usos, his own family. He turned his back on them. But a deeper part of the story that I don't think is just out there in the open is the fact that he is the little brother. And in the scenario of the little brother, in the eyes of his bigger brothers, he had to show them that he was worthy. He had to show them that he could hold his own next to them in battle. He always said in subsequent interviews, I love you guys, and I think if we were together, we would be unstoppable. So it wasn't about animosity. It was about proving, and the proving ground was in the WWE. And, you know, say what you will, he took a lot of L's, but I think he took those L's in a sense of those losses were to show him that in the WWE, it's very competitive, and you can't just take shortcuts to the top and be the king and be the main eventer and be the world champion. It takes years of experience and practice to claw your way up. Look at who's world champions right now. Cody Rhodes, who worked his way up from the bottom. He had to leave the system to go and dominate other systems in order to come back and finally win in this system. Volta, a.k.a. Gunther, he did the same thing, but he dominated in ways that we haven't seen in the WWE in a long time. And he's still noticeably trying to reconfigure and modify his dominance because it's not as easy as it was in other systems. Roman Reigns, his dominance was in part, if not large part, due to the psychological trauma that he put on his family to help him and bring him in a position of power. There are so many other stories that I can talk about as far as the rise to the top of the system and where you need to be, that Solo just proved at that time it was too soon. Not to say that in the future it won't be the perfect scenario, the perfect opportunity, because I know he learned a lot by doing this. He took a lot of L's, but he got a lot of information, and he also has a win over Roman Reigns. That's something to brag about. So now I'm talking about Jacob Fatu. Solo when he had the Rogue Bloodline, did something that the other bloodline, the original bloodline, did not do. He went outside of the family bloodline. He brought in Tama Tonga Tongaloa. Now, I know you're going to say, what are you talking about, Wrestling Old Head? You're off your rocker. You're off your meds. You have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. But let me tell you this. Haku is not a blood relative of the bloodline that is attached to the Fatus, the Usos, the Roman Reigns, the Dwayne Johnsons. They're not blood. What happened was with Rikishi and Haku, who were a tag team back in the old school WWE, Haku, also known as Meng, is the quote-unquote uncle. He was gifted, or he was announced as the uncle, but it wasn't by blood. It was because they're so close. Pseudo-family, if you will. So, yes, they are family, but they are not family. So this was the first indication that this bloodline was going to be totally different than the original bloodline, where it wasn't about close family. It was something totally different. Solo was going after people that were outcasts, that didn't fit the demographic of the WWE, that didn't fit the mold of what requirements you should have to be able to at least be considered for the bloodline. With all due respect, right? So Tama Tonga Tongaloa, outcasts. Then he got a wild man. Then he brought in Jacob Fatu. His record, which is a legitimate record, this is not kayfabe here, his legitimate record is he's got stripes on his record. He's got a couple felly fells, I'm sure, a couple misties, misdemeanors and felonies, you know. He's a brawler, he's a badass, he's a gangster. And he's earned his stripes on the street, and he worked his way up through system after system and dominated. So when Solo brought Jacob Fatu in, I remember legitimately there were reports that the WWE was worried that Jacob Fatu would outshine Solo Sikoa. That information got out to the public. And I personally believe that got out on purpose. You knew the story of Solo Sikoa. If you didn't, all you had to do was do your homework. Everybody was talking about it. Solo was the little brother that was trying to seem bigger than he was. He usurped the throne. He got a ragtag group of outcasts with him, and he tried to take shit over prematurely. Jacob Fatu, he had real stripes. He was a real wild man. And now aligning himself and pledging allegiance to Solo Sikoa gave Rogue Bloodline way more legitimacy. They seemed like way more of a threat. But now that Solo no longer has his bargaining chips, his bragging rights, now that he no longer has the Ulafala, now that he is seemingly no longer tangled up with Roman Reigns, at least for now, Jacob Fatu no longer has that allegiance, no longer needs to pledge to Solo, who probably behind the scenes promised power, promised chances, more than likely offered up a chance to be a future tribal chief and have control of the head of the table. Now, Jacob Fatu is blood for Solo Sikoa, is blood for Roman Reigns, is blood for the Usos, and is blood for The Rock. And there is a story there that they did not accept him in the family, which is why he is such a wild man, which is why he is going to be the way he is. Jacob Fatu legitimately is believable. He has credibility. Every time that I hear him about to speak, and even speak, it's captivating. There is a legitimacy to what Jacob Fatu is presenting. And if they accentuate that in real ways, there is not a single superstar in the WWE or in the wrestling world that would be like him. No one-to-one comparison. He would stand alone. The way that he wrestles in the ring, the way that he looks when he walks around, his reactions, the stuff that he does backstage, it's unintentionally and in the best way hilarious. The way that he talks to security, the way that he asserts his dominance. Jacob Fatu is going to be on the fast rise to the top if they keep giving him this freedom to play around with this character. Which brings me to WrestleMania. Solo walked out on SmackDown without saying a thing, and everybody is talking about the look that Jacob Fatu gave Solo as he walked out. And I think it's apparent that the way that we look at the Rogue Bloodline is going to be different. And I believe that we are in the early stages of a potential split here. So where are they going to go? Well, Roman's going to have bigger fish to fry. I mean, he's either going to be working against The Rock, he's going to be either working against Cody Rhodes or CM Punk. He doesn't have time for the Rogue Bloodline anymore. We are all clamoring, especially after Gunther beats Jey Uso on Saturday night's main event. And spoiler alert, Gunther's going to be beating Jey Uso on Saturday night's main event. I'm not saying that I would like to see that happen. I would be really entertained by a Jey Uso world title run right now. But he just had an Intercontinental title run, albeit a small one. I think it's time for him to finally reunite with Jimmy Uso. Getting Usos back together will really help the tag team division right now, but it would also help further this Solo Sikoa Jacob Fatu story, because remember, the Usos are the big brothers to Solo, and Solo loves them as he loves Roman Reigns, and I'm sure that love is reciprocated. So what you'll have here is Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, and Tonga Loa, outcasts that are now left to their own devices without a leader to follow. So they're going to be jackals, they're going to be hyenas, they're going to be coyotes, they're going to be werewolves in the WWE, which makes them 1,000 times more dangerous. And Jacob's going to smell the fear. He's going to smell the blood on Solo, and he's going to try and G-check him. He's going to try and check him to test his gangster. So Solo is not going to back down. This is going to endear the crowd to Solo Sikoa. The fans are going to now get behind Solo Sikoa because he's going to stick up for himself, and it's going to cost him. And who is going to protect him but his big brothers? That's right. His big brothers coming to the rescue to help Solo. So you potentially have a option for a 6-man tag at WrestleMania where it's the Usos and Solo against Jacob, Tama Tonga, and Tonga Loa. Or you have Jacob Fatu against Solo Sikoa. And we're testing out Jacob Fatu in singles action. Saturday night's main event is right around the corner, and I believe we're going to be seeing him against Braun Strowman. This is going to be a test to see what they see in Jacob, and I believe he's going to win decisively, and I also believe they're going to put the rocket on his back. And I think that it starts with him going after the man that he once loved, Solo Sikoa. And I can just see it now, going from I love you, Solo, to I hate you, Solo. And I believe they start that. Now, I'm not saying that the Usos need to be involved. But look, if little bro is getting beat up by some gangsters that were on his team that turned their back on him, they're going to come to his aid. Because when little bro gets in a little trouble, then the big brother's got to come and handle business. Doesn't mean they want to work with them all the time. Just means we got your back. And I believe we got a scenario that's potential there in this instance with Solo and Jacob Fatu. It's brewing. It's not steaming by any means. It's not a guarantee. This is really just me fantasy cooking, and this is what I do. But I think it would be fascinating to see it play out in a similar way, because who's going to have your back but family? And this would allow Jacob to go through the Usos, to go through, which there's still some situation there with Jay and Jacob Fatu. It started when Jay put Jacob on Front Street. They had a confrontation, so there's still some stuff brewing between them two. And then it gives Jacob a chance to climb the ranks, and eventually he will cross paths with Roman Reigns. I really love what the WWE is doing right now, where they have all of these different options, which they haven't had that in a long time. And I got to say, it's really refreshing. It gets my brain thinking. I have seen other creators' brains coming up with different ideas, and I really love it. I think it gives credence to the new era which we're in, but it also it gives the WWE a lot of leeway, a lot of room, because they can go several different options. And I'm sure, based on what they did in 2024, I trust that whatever direction they go, they're going to make it work. And they're stretching things. But when you're as successful as the WWE has been, there's no room to really like go out and do something wild and try and prove yourself. They're proving themselves night in, night out, even on cruise control. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen in this regard with Jacob and Solo. I'm fascinated by it. But you guys let me know what you think. Do you think we're on the precipice of a Jacob Fatu Solo Sikoa feud match? Does it happen at WrestleMania? Do the Usos get back with Solo Sikoa? You guys let me know in the comments. Thumbs up on the way out, you guys. Thanks again for stopping by and checking it out. And if you've been here this long, you're a real one. So thumbs up on the way out. And as always, stay tuned for more.